clearly a hazard. Nice area for a spike strip, but again, they have to pre-deploy to deploy the spike strip. The speed at this particular time is not excessive. We know we have train tracks down the center of that area, so there's a lot of concern about the safety of not only the passenger but the general public in this particular area of apparently South Los Angeles, Southgate.
And you'll see him just make a left turn there, and now in the Huntington Park area, as he's blowing by traffic, he does have the stretch of this particular street to himself. You can see an SUV, LAPD SUV, right behind him here as he's going to approach another intersection, another very busy intersection, and he goes right through that.
So it looks like we're now in Huntington Park. And those cities, small cities, they adjoin each other in close proximity, so it's not unusual to go from one community to the other, different cities within the county of LA, where we have 88 cities in the county, and a number of the small cities, Huntington Park would be one of those small cities. But again,
and Dennis, we're seeing now that this is specifically South Alameda Street and East 67th Street is the latest intersection.
So we see him continuing. We see a number of vehicles that are behind. Again, the pursuit is continuing. It's not one of those pursuits where we see a lot of high speeds, 50-plus miles per hour now. We've seen much faster than that, but now he's speeding up again. So it's up and down on that speedometer, on that accelerator. It looks like he's up in the 50 range.
He comes to a cul-de-sac here, so this is an opportunity, you would think, for LAPD once they make their way into a cul-de-sac, but he scoots around all of those officers, and he's backtracking from where he just came.
And he was apparently on the wrong side of the double yellows, which is also very hazardous. Now, this is an area you can block him in.
Now he's driving potentially on the wrong side of the road, going into an intersection. Police right there with him, and he continues to move.
This is where you could do a nice ram. This would be doing the pursuit and intervention technique, and you see all those cars making the U-turns. There's probably 12 cars or thereabouts. That would have been a good area to block off that particular cul-de-sac, but didn't happen. Now we see heavy traffic. There's going through that intersection. It looks like a pedestrian going through the crosswalk. Very heavily populated area that this violator is in now.
Hey, Dennis, we are getting a little bit more information. As you had alluded to, this suspect is wanted for a domestic attack, and allegedly while he's in driving right now, he is actually hitting the female passenger.
Yeah, I mean, when we saw the close-up shot inside the car, it looked like the guy, now he's making a dramatic turn, may have been striking the woman, or at least moving his arms very intensely inside there, and so he may have actually been hitting that female passenger as he drives. Starting to drive a little more wildly now as we move into the side streets, sort of running out of room, going into what looks like an alley here, a bit of a dirt road, by what looks like some trash, and sort of out of space.
You'll see him here hit a dead end, so he's come to a stop
here.
So
where do you go from here? This is where, things could be dangerous for police because we don't know if he's armed. He clearly is lashing out at this woman. You would imagine at this point,
LAPD is coming up just a little bit more.
Dennis, does the fact that this woman is in the front, does that make them more eager to try to end this thing? And the fact that they're getting reports that she's being attacked during this?
And by the way, he just took a
driving
dirt
onto
road,
a
right.
dirt road. This looks almost like a baseball field, but it's not.
It is a cul-de-sac. They do want to take him into custody as quickly as possible and save an injury on the passenger, the driver, whether it's his wife, girlfriend, whatever the case may be, or a kidnapped victim.
Whoa! Through a fence, driving through a fence, taking it with him, and continuing to go.
And you see the bike there. There was a pedestrian who just took off running, literally, just to avoid getting hit by this
now people are in what looks like could be a park area, driving right through a park, driving through trees. This is very dangerous. This is getting more and more dangerous. Clearly, this driver getting increasingly desperate. Kind of amazing that his car is still going after driving through that fence.
And that fence, there was a bicycle on the other side of that fence, so we don't know where that bicycle rider is. But he's Now we see a pedestrian as he's going through this park area, extremely hazardous, extremely dangerous. And as we get out of those trees, we're going to see he's going to get back on the roadway.
Yeah, he gets right back on the roadway. So it's, you know, the fact that LAPD had him right there at the dead end, and, you know, now here we are again, back to where we started.
Right, exactly. Now he'll go up and down those streets, whether he's familiar with those areas or not. He'll continue to try to elude. He's not going to get anywhere. Again, when we have a chopper overhead, that chopper is going to keep close view. There's no way the individual is going to escape, especially with the female passenger. Whatever that relationship with, it doesn't really matter. The fact is he's assaulting her. He's committing more crimes than just the pursuit. So now you've got assault. Maybe he has a weapon, assault with a deadly weapon. Maybe she's kicked. All kinds of possibilities. The concern is get him into custody, get that car stopped, get him into custody, and rescue that lady from that vehicle, for that individual.
And you got to wonder whether that car sustained any damage driving through that fence and also driving on roads that aren't really roads. You know, that the car's not necessarily made to do that.
No, it's not. And is that his car or is that her car? Did he steal the car? Is the car belong to a friend? Normally you don't do that type of damage or drive that way in your personal vehicle. You have a little concern for it. But if this isn't that individual, the suspect's car, he obviously doesn't care what happens to the car. But those units are keeping a close distance. This is not a tracking situation. Again, you've got a victim in that car along with the suspect. You want to get that car stopped. This isn't the kind of a situation where they're going to tracking mode, because we don't know what could happen to that female passenger, since there are reports that he's been striking her. How it all began, we don't know. They'll check the records on that. But the units are going to be close behind. His driving pattern, again, is not excessive speed. He's driving in basically a safe manner as far as the speed goes, but obviously not cooperating as far as pulling over and surrendering.
And he's driving at some points on the wrong side of the road and driving in the middle of a park. I mean, it's not exactly like he's following all the rules of the road either.
No, it's hazardous. It's dangerous, but it's not like one of these 90-mile-an-hour pursuits that we've seen in the past on some of these streets. The speed right now is probably in the 35, 40-mile-an-hour range.
So he just makes his way through another intersection here, and still in the Huntington Park area, and he, you know, let the traffic go by, thank goodness, and then he made a left turn, and you see all of those LAPD vehicles right there crammed together, but still this guy has been able to just keep on going.
Exactly. And again, we need those vehicles there. We need them to make sure they have sufficient personnel, canine, et cetera, to take him into custody. And again, rescue the female passenger that reports are he has assaulted her within the car. How it began, how the call came out, was it a 911 call, was it an officer observation? All that information will be part of this investigation once he's taken into custody. But how it began, they will trace that back and find out if someone notified the police or the police observed it. We know that as we have all those units for backup, normally you don't have that many. In this particular case, if he does have a weapon, there's all the possibilities that go through the officer's mind. Is it just a pursuit? Is it a kidnap? What is it? We don't know until they're stopped. So paramount, get the car stopped, identify the people, take them into custody. This individual, I would guess, from my years of experience, he's been through the criminal justice system in the past. This is not his first time, as they say, at the rodeo. He's been through this before.
He's driving on the wrong side of the road just to get past all of the backed up traffic there. He's making a left turn at this intersection. You see the trail of LAPD officers right behind him. Now, Dennis, explain to our viewers here that LAPD, they're trying to get ahead of this as best they can, so they have to have units up ahead, correct?
Well, the units up ahead, if they can deploy a spike strip, his speed would be appropriate speed to deploy a spike strip to pop the tires on the vehicle. That would be ideal situation. But at this particular time, he's going up and down these streets. They're not going to deploy on a residential street, most likely not on a commercial area. So they have to pre-deploy, knowing what street he's going to go down, pre-deploy, get the officers in place, get the spike strip, and then deploy that. So what they want to do, the bottom line, get them in custody. If they ram the car, they could do the pit maneuver. That's another possibility. There's all types of possibilities, but that lead officer will decide what tactic. There'll be a supervisor that will be given directions. And normally, again, we don't have that many units in a pursuit. There's normally, by policy, limited number. But in this particular case, where you have a female hostage, we want to use extreme caution and make sure there's enough resources to take him into custody and rescue the lady who's the passenger in the car.
What's going through the mind of that first pursuing police officer who's right behind the guy? Take us through that guy's or female officer's perspective right now.
Well, the officer, hopefully there's two officers. One's broadcasting. The driving officer is concentrating on the vehicle, pursuing that vehicle in a safe distance, a safe manner, a safe speed. And the passenger officer is calling off the streets in coordination with the ground units, the helicopter. So they want to continually keep updated of where that individual is going. If the individual stops and bails, where we're going to set up the perimeter, what streets are we going to be on. So the street he's going on now, on the wrong side again of the roadway, they'll be broadcasting the suspect's now on the wrong side of the roadway, passing down this street. So they keep informed. So hopefully you've got a driver and a passenger where the passenger is doing the broadcast. If you just have a driver is driving and broadcasting, that's a pretty tough position to be in. It's optimum to have two in that vehicle. Hopefully the pursuing vehicle has two.
Dennis, as we get a closer look here on the passenger side here, it looks like, she's holding on. You can see her holding on to the roof of the car, and then it looks like maybe her legs up on the dashboard.
Yeah.
As we see, it looks like bracing her. It looks like she's bracing herself. It looks like she's bracing herself with the feet on the dashboard and the hand on the roof to brace herself. Maybe he's going to crash the car, and obviously there's some conversation, I would assume, between him and her, and she's in the passenger seat, seeing him on the wrong side of the roadway, driving the wrong side of the roadway. I'm sure she's petrified to seeing this and not stopping, and the police vehicle's behind. So she's in a very awkward position and a very precarious position. Obviously, she's concerned with her safety, and she's basically the victim of this driver, and whatever he's done or plans to do or has done, she's well aware. So her concern, obviously, is to get out of that car. She's not going to jump out. That would obviously be critical for her. And she's holding on for dear life, and that's what I think you see by the feet and the arms out the window, the arm out the window.
We did see her earlier open up the door, maybe considering the possibility of jumping out of the car, and she chose not to do that.
And that's extremely dangerous when you jump out of a moving car, especially with whatever clothing you're wearing. You hit that pavement, that's pavement, that's hot pavement. It's not very good for the body to jump out of a car, so she's using good judgment. But again, she's got to be aware that there's a number of units behind, a number of units pursuing. And looking at that lead car, it doesn't look like it's LAPD. They've got a police sign on the side. It must be another agency and not LAPD. I don't know how many LAPD units are involved in this pursuit, but in Southgate, they do have their own police agency, so I would assume that it's a Southgate or one of those smaller cities. As we see the police on the door, LAPD has a small city seal. So that lead vehicle is from another jurisdiction.
So this is eastbound Firestone approaching Hunt, in fact, in Southgate. So very well could be Southgate PD trailing here. He's gone through some congested intersections, been able to just keep straight here, keep on going, and some open road here, which is a good thing considering, the unsuspecting public out at 5:45 on this Wednesday evening. We're getting, again, a tighter shot here. You see her leg up on the dashboard. She's holding on to the rooftop here.
If you are just joining us, you're watching the Fox 11 News at 5 o'clock. I'm Alex Michelson with Marla Tejas. Dennis Zine, our police specialist, is on the line with us as we watch a police pursuit in the Southgate area. We believe that this suspect is wanted for some sort of domestic attack on the passenger in this car. You see a female passenger, her hand, her leg right there. He's been driving wildly through the side streets. We've not seen them on the freeway as of yet, sort of going in circles in the Southgate area. At one point, he was boxed in into a fenced area, drove through the fence, drove through a park to get away from a large number of officers who continue to pursue him right now in rush hour traffic in Southgate. Dennis Zine, where to next?
Well, we're just going to continue with this. He's going to try and negotiate his way through traffic as best he can. We know she's bracing herself in that car, so obviously she's concerned for her safety, not just the seatbelt. Hopefully she's wearing a seatbelt, but the reason you see that arm... It's
here we go. We're going onto the freeway now. We're moving onto a freeway.
We'll get the CHP involved.
Headed on to
the CHP.
I believe
this is the southbound 710 from Firestone, from eastbound Firestone. Now we're on southbound 710 here.
So as we go onto the freeway, it's likely that the CHP will join this pursuit. They've had some very good luck on pursuits, apprehending the drivers, freeing the passengers. They're well experienced. All officers have pursuit training, but the CHP does it more often than most agencies, and those officers are well trained to do that. But now we've got the situation on the freeway where you don't have pedestrians, we don't have cross traffic, we got a lot of vehicles, motorcycles, etc.
And speeds pick up.
Exactly. That we see her position. She's definitely braced. If you can imagine, you're in a speeding car and you're concerned for your safety, you brace yourself, which is what she's doing with her legs and her arm to brace herself. Maybe she's concerned, and she should be concerned about a collision. The way this individual is driving, it would not surprise me if the suspect, did collide with something, because we saw what happened when he went through the park and took right through the fence.
Is she turned around?
It's almost like she's cradled, like she's trying to protect herself, her left side from him, and get into that cradled position.
And there were reports that he was striking her while this pursuit's taking place. So I'm sure she's concerned about that, if he's striking her with his hand or a weapon or whatever the case may be. So obviously she's concerned for her safety, and rightly so. So she's bracing herself, which is what she needs to do. Hopefully she has a seatbelt on. But as we see the speeds picking up now, he's in the fast lane of the freeway, traveling down the freeway, and the traffic on this freeway is moving at a pretty good clip. And there we see the sheriff's helicopter overhead. So the sheriffs are doing the broadcast, the ground units, and they're all coordinating with that.
Dennis, what is your advice? This just makes me think, what would happen if you were ever a passenger in a pursuit, or if you were victim of a carjacking or victim of something where you were sitting in the passenger seat there? What should you do?
Well, you cooperate as much as you can. You don't want to get injured. You don't want to get hurt. You want to cooperate, and hopefully the authorities will apprehend the individual and free you. Jumping out of the car is not the thing to do. This particular female victim in this particular situation that doesn't have a lot of options. Your options are very limited. So what you do is you just pray that the police will intervene and put this to a stop as quickly as possible. Again, you're not going to see a spike strip here. They're just going to follow. CHP should be taking over shortly, and this pursuit will continue. A lot of movement here, not a lot of traffic in this particular direction. The other traffic, the other direction, we see a lot of cars. But you just hold on for dear life, and hopefully police will come to rescue you. But there's not many options that you have, because if you do anything to the driver, the car crashes. You don't want to do that. You don't want to jump out. So you're really victimized there, and with not many options at your disposal.
Well, Dennis, we want to replay those tense moments where this almost came to an end, and where he crashed through a fence at one point in a park. This was after he had gotten boxed in at the end, seemingly at the end of a dead end, but then he decided to just maneuver his way through a park. He crashed through that fence there. Fortunately, didn't seem like he hit anybody, but we did see the bike there, and we saw somebody running for cover. He continues to make his way through that park. No one was injured during that, and then he found his way back to the surface street there. That was in the Southgate area. And now on the smaller screen here on your screen, that is the same driver now, southbound 710, and it looks like a little more congestion now in this particular part of the freeway.
Yes, correct. Now he's driving in the what would be considered the emergency lane, not a carpool lane, not a traffic lane, but an emergency lane. If someone were to break down to utilize that, that's what that lane is used for. So he's using that as his access lane to pass all that traffic, and then he'll merge back in when he finds a gap in the fast lane or the number one lane. We always count from the left to the right, the carpool lane or the emergency lane, and 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now we're getting off the freeway at very quick speeds here.
In the Compton area.
Oh.
So now those police vehicles are going to have to all negotiate over to that right shoulder and get off that freeway to keep that chase close as possible. But again, we do have an area overhead.
Going back onto the freeway. You got off the freeway for a second, getting back on the freeway.
This is the Alondra exit on-ramp now.
There's a driver driving kind of slowly right in front of him, got backed up there.
Yeah,
as our chopper tries to reposition.
Yeah, he'll snake his way through there.
And now he's off.
Yeah, he's making these quick moves, trying to lose the ground units, but there's enough ground units. If he loses one, there'll be one behind that will then take over the pursuit. So, and I'm looking for the CHP. They should be joining this shortly. It's their territory, the freeway jurisdiction, so they should be sending units close by.
I'm struck by how little traffic there is at 551 on this freeway. We believe this may be onto the 91 freeway now.
I think schools are still out, and with that, we're semi-vacation time, so spring break. That might be the reason we don't have a lot of heavy traffic in this particular area this afternoon. So as we're going to go down...
As we get a closer look at the car, it looks like the front end of the car may have sustained some damage, possibly when it hit into that fence. But the car seems to be still driving pretty well.
Does it look like a Honda or one of those Toyota or one of those cars? That's what it looks like.
We think it's a Honda Accord.
So eastbound 91, he finds himself, yes, in some thicker traffic. Still not too bad for, the LA area, as you were pointing out, Alex. But here he goes on the right-hand side in that number 1 lane. And there is quite a bit of distance, though. So what's the following distance that police officers should follow?
Well, reasonable and prudent. They don't want to jump right on that tail, so they want to drive at a safe distance. If he jumps out of the car takes off. He comes out with a weapon. So they have to consider all options. So they drive at a safe distance, and they relieve with that particular vehicle now, the lead vehicle behind the suspect is at a safe distance. You don't want to get right up on that bumper. You don't know what that individual is going to do, so you want to give yourself a cushion. In this particular case, we've seen an appropriate cushion between the suspect and the lead vehicle in this pursuit. Again, we have multiple units that are in the pursuit, and hopefully the CHP will be there shortly to take over the pursuit if it stays on the freeway. Traffic is not that heavy this time of the evening, but again, spring break, and I think a lot of people are still out for the spring break, so that might be the reason why we don't have a lot of extensive traffic gridlock, which we're constantly seeing in this region, gridlock traffic.
Well, he's spending a lot of time on the shoulder here. At one point, it looked like he was going to get off. This is in the Long Beach area, eastbound 91 still, but he is, finding the room there on the shoulder and sticking to that just to be able to pass by everyone.
Correct. Right. So, and there is damage, as mentioned, to the left side of that vehicle, probably caused by the connection with the fence earlier, that left front. But the car's still drivable. It doesn't appear to be any impediment from the driving. The tires are still in good shape, and whatever damage was caused, it was minimal. We don't know. By now, they know who the car belongs to. They run that plate, and they'll know who the owner is, the registered owner of the car, which could be the suspect, or it could be a car that was borrowed or stolen, or whatever the case. But they will have that run down by now to know exactly who owns that vehicle. So the suspect's still driving at speed where they can find the gap in traffic and speed up and accelerate, and those police units behind will do the same. But again, with the air unit overhead, that unit will continue to broadcast along with the ground unit, and the driver passenger in that lead unit will continually inform those subsequent units of the direction where they're traveling.
Our technology is showing us we are now in the city of Bellflower. He's now getting off the freeway, it looks like. We were on the 91 East. He's now exiting the 91 East. This is at Lakewood Boulevard in the city of Bellflower.
And he's jammed up here, and you can see the pedestrians, the drivers ahead of him, see that he's coming up behind, and they're trying to, let him go by so that they don't get their own vehicle damaged. But he is boxed in here, and you see the trail of police officers right behind him.
Well, if those cars remain stopped, there could be a possibility of a takedown, but if he can snake through, he will.
He did. He got right through.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, you got to feel for all these drivers who are just doing their business, probably trying to go home to their families after a long day of work. And then this pursuit kind of comes out of nowhere. And we've all been in those situations where you're driving and then you start hearing the helicopters and seeing the sirens, and then, boom, you're in the middle of a pursuit.
Exactly. And you don't know what's going to happen at that point. jumps out, jumps into another car, and takes off. There's all kinds of possibilities and situations that have taken place over the years. So in this particular case, we do have the passenger who's considered the victim in this particular case. We do have the driver, his hand out of the car for whatever reason, and continuing to flee the police now on the surface street, off the freeway.
And we're getting a little closer look at him, and it looks like he is talking to his female passenger, who, by the way, if you're just joining us, this driver here is wanted for some sort of a domestic attack on the female passenger inside this four-door sedan, and currently in the Bellflower area.
And he's communicating with her, obviously. You see his head moving around. They're probably having an argument. And that
now they're talking. You can see it looks like they're in the middle of a verbal fight. There have been reports of a physical fight, and you can see the intensity on this guy. Looks like he may be partially balding there, yelling at this female passenger. You wonder if he's under the influence of something, but acting irrationally as he continues to drive, fairly well for a pursuit, though.
Well, it looks like they're having a heated argument. You see his hands coming off the steering wheel. You see his head motioning toward her. He's obviously upset with something, and obviously pointing at her and flailing his hands. So it'll be interesting once this pursuit comes to an end what the relationship is between him and the female passenger.
This is still northbound Lakewood, just crossed over Somerset here in Bellflower.
We know domestic violence is a continuing problem in our society, and this is a situation where it could be domestic violence, which is a felony situation. So you're going to have possible weapon. He's obviously going to be going to jail once they apprehend him and render aid to the victim. There's no excuse for domestic violence. In this particular case, we see what's accelerated to, whether they're married or boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever the case may be. He's obviously very upset just by his gestures, just by his movements. And we see her as we saw from the other side of the car, how she braced to protect herself in this situation on this pursuit.
So now he's on Rosecrans Boulevard in Bellflower. He's got a pretty wide open stretch here. What is the best strategy, Dennis, for police officers at this point? And then also in terms of weighing the public's safety as he blows through another intersection?
Well, the concern is for the public safety paramount. But again, what we have is not just an individual who's fleeing from the police. We have an individual fleeing from the police with a potential victim in the car. So there's concern about rescuing that victim, the passenger in this car. Normally, the pursuit would go into a tracking mode if the speed is excessive, if driving is very hazardous. But what do you do when you have a female who is suspected of being the victim of this situation? You need to maintain this pursuit to rescue her. The number one priority now is get them stopped and rescue that lady, whether she's been kidnapped or whatever the situation. She's a victim of this individual. So the paramount concern is get her to safety. You go into a tracking mode, you lose the car, who knows what's going to happen. So paramount is getting her into custody, getting her safe away from this individual, and putting him into custody. So the pursuit will continue. Her safety, her concern for her welfare is paramount in those officers' minds. I'm sure we have female officers, male officers, young officers, veterans, seasoned officers. The concern is the same. Rescue that lady from this individual who I would suspect has been through the criminal justice system in the past. Normally people don't do this type of activity, and he's got a passenger who he may have kidnapped. There's all kinds of possibilities. We do not know. We will find that out once this individual is taken into custody, but paramount, we're concerned about the public, concerned about the cars on the road, but ultimately concerned about this person. How this whole situation started was a 9/11 call, so there's a concern to rescue that lady, take him into custody.
It is now 6 o'clock. Those of you that are used to tuning in at this time for Dish Nation, we are breaking into that for this breaking news coverage of a police pursuit which is underway right now in Bellflower. We've been following it for the last half hour or so. I'm Alex Michelson along with Marla Tellez. Police specialist Dennis Zine is with us as well as we follow this Honda Accord. If you're just tuning in now, the driver of that car behind the tinted windows there is wanted for some sort of domestic incident involving a female passenger. You can see right there, the windows just came down, and it appears that the two of them are having a wild argument during this pursuit. There are reports that he may have been hitting her during the pursuit, and the pursuit has taken some wild turns. As the car now, one of them, including when the guy drove through a fence. You see that there. This was from earlier. He went through a fence, was in a cul-de-sac, just kept going, went through a park, and continued to drive. And now he continues to drive. We've been in the areas including South LA, Southgate, Long Beach, Bellflower, and we are now in the Bellflower area.
Eastbound Rosecrans. We've also seen, as we've seen the driver's side window down on the other side, that female passenger, we've gotten a pretty good look at her as well, and she's been cradled up essentially on her side trying to protect herself. We understand that he may be continuing on in their heated argument there and actually domestic abuse within the vehicle while he is being pursued by Southgate police. Dennis, any word, though, since we're now off the freeway, CHP may have gotten involved, but now that's not the case. So now that it's sticking with surface streets, even though it's in Bellflower, the lead agency remains Southgate police.
Well, the Southgate works with the neighboring jurisdictions. They're relatively small departments as far as number of personnel, so they work hand in hand. 88 cities in the county, and there's a close connection between all those cities. So what we see happening here is the coordination of the small cities with their police agencies all working together.
In fact, we just got word that we're now in Norwalk.
Yeah, there'll be a number of close cities that will be there, and they'll continue working in a cooperative relationship. The Sheriff's Department oversees the entire county, so we wouldn't be surprised if they pass the jurisdiction of the Sheriff's control. But clearly they have enough units to take this individual into custody and rescue the lady passenger. But as we see this continuing on different roadways, some with a lot of traffic, some with no traffic, on and off the freeway, he's not going to lose the helicopter. He's not going to lose these vehicles. They're going to rescue that lady, whether he's going to cooperate or not. And once he comes to a stop, there'll be a concern about taking him into custody and also rescuing the female passenger who's in the right front seat, who was gripping the roof as well as her feet up on the dashboard to brace herself in the event of a collision. You can just imagine you're a passenger with the individual suspect who's driving, not cooperating. You know the police are chasing. You're concerned about your safety, and you're going to brace yourself in case of a crash. And it would not be unlikely for this individual to crash, as we've seen him crash through the fence, causing damage to that car and continuing on and off freeways in this behavior that is obviously trying to flee, but he's not going to get anywhere. He's just going to continue frustrating himself, and the police ultimately will apprehend him. It's just a matter of time until this comes to an end.
So we're now on Rosecrans. We just passed by Pioneer Boulevard. It looks like there may be an entrance to the freeway there. Chose not to take the entrance to the freeway and is instead driving. Unfortunately, our chopper is now running out of fuel, so for the safety of our pilots, which is our paramount concern, they're going to go land and try to get that fuel. We will let you know what happens to this, when we find out for the news at 10 o'clock tonight.
Yep, so this pursuit, though, by all accounts, is still underway in the Norwalk area, so if that is where you are, loved ones, please make them aware, because this guy